Stepmother picks up her son. Author, Tranquil Night Sky. Copywriting, Shen Yanmo was born again, when he was just thrown onto Zhuangzi. Before rebirth, she was originally a prostitute whose parents had died and was not favored. She was married to Wu Changho as the heir. The old lady of the home mansion was afraid that Shen's daughter would give birth to a prostitute and neglect the original prostitute, so she was always on guard against Shen Yanmo. Lord Ho was afraid that the Shen family was a black-heart stepmother, so she didn't say anything coldly, and didn't make up with the girl Shen, so she went to the battlefield, leaving her alone in the home mansion. A year later, Ho Ye triumphantly, drunk and pulled Shen Yanmo round the room, but the fathers of several children are like hairy boys. Afterwards, she disliked her and threw her to Zhuangzi to fend for herself, and died of dystocia. After rebirth, Shen Yanmo got the He Li Shu, and stood on his own, away from the right and wrong of home men. This stepmother is wrong, and it's better to concentrate on raising her child than to intrigue. After many years, Shen Yanmo discovered that there was another person who had consummated her, and that person wanted to marry her. Sorry, she doesn't serve. The ex-husband regrets and reunites. Leave far away. Small theater, Ye Shaofu is wearing a groom's robe, standing in front of Shen's house. Tell your wife, I will marry her. Let her come out. The servants of the Shen mansion opened the door and handed a letter. I'm sorry, the prince, our wife has traveled far away, and the return date is uncertain. Ye Shaofu unfolded the letter, looked at it a few times, and fainted with a spout of blood. Demoning, the male protagonist is a place, and a place. The important thing is said 3 times. The article is empty, please don't be careful. Content tag, having a special fondness for having a child, rebirth, and inspirational life. Search keywords, protagonist, Shen Yanmo. Supporting actor, Ye Shaofu, Gu Shei, etc. Others, other onesentence. Introduction, wife chasing crematorium. Purpose, even if you live in adversity, you can't give up yourself. Shen 10 years. The scorching sun in August is like a fire, the Big Bear Mountain is green, and the mountains are full of smoke, like a fairyland on earth. There is a Zhuangzi at the foot of the mountain, exquisite and elegant. In the hazy morning light, the person on the bed was asleep, frowning, with tears hanging in the corners of his eyes, as if having a nightmare. In the dream, Shen Yanmo heard a cry of a baby, but his eyes were half open and half awake, and his forehead was soaked with sweat. Then came the voice of a woman in a gentle voice, but her words were cold and bitter. The nobleman said, "This child must not stay, you can figure it out." After learning about it, Shen Yanmo wanted to open his eyes, but no matter how hard he tried, he still couldn't open them. I heard another woman say, "This child is the lifeblood of the lady. She is now down to this point. Only this child is left. Why bother to kill them? If I take the child out and throw it far away, it will be death or alive. It all depends on his good fortune." There was a hint of pleading in his voice. Who knew that the first woman turned her face and said sternly, "Cut the grass to get rid of the roots, the old woman understands. If the roots are buried now, the nobles will find out that I am dead and give the child to me." The child lifted up and fell to the ground. No. Shen Yanmo heard the baby fall to the ground, and the baby didn't have time to cry, and fell on the ground like that, with blood stains on the back of his head. Don't ask why she knows that there is blood on the baby's head, she seems to see it, and it seems that she can't see it. There is blood in my mind. Shen Yanmo opened his eyes abruptly, his face was full of tears, and he got up to gasp, looked around, the grey bed curtains, there was no baby crying, let alone 2 mothers-in-law. "Madam, you woke up, did you have a nightmare?" The maid lifted the bed curtain and looked towards the bed, only to see Shen Yanmo staring at the bed curtain blankly. I was panicked, fearing that Shen Yanmo would bump into something unclean. He pushed her with her hand, and whispered, "Madam, what's the matter with you? Wake up soon, don't scare Kaiyu." Shen Yanmo returned to his senses, and then looked at the girl by the bed, like her own maid Kaihuyu, and unconsciously asked, Kaihuyu, where am I? The dream just now seemed true and false. In her dream, she was thrown onto Zhuangzi by Wuchang Hogu Shei. She gave birth to a child in October. Due to the labor intensive in childbirth, she had no energy to give birth. She was half awake and half asleep. She saw the child being thrown on the ground severely. Blood, just died like that, she didn't come up in a breath, and followed. Madam, what's the matter with you? The eldest lady said that you abused her, and her arms were bruised. Lord Ho convicted you without asking, and threw you on the Zhuangzi in anger. Chu Yi looked for her. I put on a long dress and was about to put on Shen Yanmo. Seeing her sweaty head, she asked, Madam, do you want to take a shower? Shen Yanmo thought about the dream, but didn't answer, just nodded. Kaihuyu put down her long skirt and left, went to the kitchen and asked Zhang Ma to boil water. The wife was thrown onto Zhuangzi by Lord Ho. Except for Zhang Shu, a dumb old man who guards the gate, there is also a woman named Zhang Ma who does chores. The To entry Zhuangzi has no one else. Shen Yanmo was still sitting on the bed in a daze, as if not believing that she was still alive. Clearly vomiting blood, heart contraction, shortness of breath, and lifelessness, everything is so real. How come back to when I first arrived in Zhuangzi? Could it be that God has mercy on her and can't bear her sudden death at a young age to make her come alive? Or was it pity that her child died unjustly, and showed her compassion to rebirth her? Still, everything just now was just a dream. No matter what, she is still alive. The trembling hand touched the flat abdomen, where a small life had been bred. In any case, she wanted to keep him safe and protect him from growing up. Those nasty things in the home mansion, whoever is willing to participate in the party, she will not wait. It is said that the stepmother is not good enough. She teaches her stepdaughter carefully, but the old lady thinks that she treats her stepdaughter harshly. Since she entered the door, the stepson was taken by the old lady, overly pampering, arrogant, and domineering. She reminded one or two things, but the old lady thought it had ulterior motives. Whoever wants to be the stepmother of Wuchang Haofu, she just wants to raise her own children, she is strict or doting, and no one will question her. Kaihuyu brought hot water and walked towards the inner room, complaining in her mouth, Madam, why did Hoye treat you like this? It's obviously Miss Ho who framed you. It's really hateful that Hoye didn't listen to your excuses. Everyone in the marquee house in Wuchang is hateful. She went back and forth a few times, finished the water, walked to Shen Yanmo's side, pouting her lips and pinching her waist to count the people who had fallen to Wuchang Hao, as if she had eaten Gu Shei. Shen Yanmo didn't seem to hear it, and went into the inner room to take a bath. When he came out, he changed into a plain dress, combed a woman's sideburns, and inserted a silver hairpin, simple and generous without losing his beauty. Looking at the person in the bronze mirror, Shen Yanmo looked like a lifetime away, clearly 16 years old, but his heart was 60 years old. She is a prostitute of the Shen family in Jinling. Her father was once an official worshipper of Sanpin. She had served as a salt inspector in Liang Hawaii. Unfortunately, she served less than half a year and died while in office. Others accused her father of corruption and committing suicide. Shen Yanmo believed in his father, he wouldn't. My father was born in a poor family and spent 10 years in a cold window. Once in high school, his only wish was to petition for the people and serve the country. He is upright, does not fear power, and has an open-minded personality. After the death of his father, his mother was depressed. The grandmother contemptuously made things difficult, and the auntie squeezed her out, so that her mother could not afford to be ill, so she followed her within 2 months. Since then, she and her brother have been discussing life with her aunt. You can imagine how difficult it is. When her parents passed away, Shen Yanmo was 12 years old, and her brother Shen Yuanan was 2 years older than her. When Shen Yanmo was 15 years old, his uncle official to Dr. Fengzi was a slack job with no real power. In order to curry favor with the powerful, the Shen family married Shen Yanmo into the Wuchang Haofu. Shen Yanmo married into the Marquis of Wuchang, and never reconciled with Lord Ho. Wu Changhao is a nostalgic, with his auntie in his heart, and he treats Shen Yanmo as a transparent person, ignorant and indifferent. Wu Changhao's attitude made her a joke of the Ho mansion, and even the servants looked down upon her, let alone the masters of the Ho mansion. Shen Yanmo didn't care, as if he had already guessed about his situation. Half a month later, the boarder was in a hurry, and Ho Wuchang went to the boarder. Since Wu Changho left, Shen Yanmo's life in the Ho mansion can be described as walking on thin ice, not to mention the rules of the day to serve her mother-in-law. Doing a little bit of wrong or inappropriate rules will cause the old lady to be punished if she doesn't understand it. He also scolded her for coming out of Xiaoman Xiaohu, and she didn't understand the rules at all. No matter what Shen Yanmo does, the old lady sees her not pleasing to her eyes. She feels that she is greedy for glory and wealth and has a deep scheming, and she has ulterior motives in marrying into the Ho mansion. Shen Yanmo was unable to change this extreme situation, and could only bear it blindly, thinking that it would be good if Ho Ye came back, and she would change everyone's opinion. A year later, Wu Changho triumphed, and after returning, he was still frosty towards Shen Yanmo. Suddenly, Wu Changhao was enthusiastic, pulling Shen Yanmo in the ceremony of Zhougong, waking up with contempt, and leaving her yard without saying a word. Shen Yanmo burst into tears, swallowing tears into his stomach, still doing what he should do, as if this incident had never happened before, but was it really as if it had never happened before? The people in the Marquis of Wuchang knew that she and Lord Ho had come to an end. Some ridicule, contempt, and defamation followed one after another. Especially Wu Changhao's eldest daughter, who was only 8 years old, her body was bruised, and she held Wu Changhao's arm with tears and said that Shen Yanmo had secretly abused her. Those marks were evidence. Shen Yanmo couldn't argue. Wu Changhao would not give her a chance to justify, and directly assigned people to Zhuangzi, letting them fend for themselves. In the dream, Shen Yanmo realized that she was pregnant, and asked Kai Huyu to return to the mansion to report, hoping that Master Ho could listen to his excuses for the sake of the child. Who knows that he has been waiting for nearly 10 months without seeing Master Ho, so please wait. But it was the end of the child being beaten to death by others, vomiting blood and dying. She woke up from the nightmare, and she was still alive. This time I will not repeat the dream scene. Seeing Shen Yanmo in a daze, Kai Huyu guessed that she was startled by the nightmare, and suggested, "Madam, it's good today. Let's go out for a walk. It's always weird in the house." Shen Yanmo nodded and got up and walked out, standing at the door of the house looking at everything in the courtyard, familiar and unfamiliar. In the dream, she has lived here for nearly 10 months, only 10 months, but she feels like a world away. At this moment, there was a rapid knock on the door. Shen Yanmo turned a deaf ear. Kai Huyu smiled, and the steps under her feet were very brisk. As she walked out, she said, "Did Master Ho send someone to pick up his wife?" Shen Yanmo whispered, "The greater the hope, the greater the disappointment. How could Lord Ho come to pick me up?" The man was eager for her to die, and the people in the Ho mansion hoped that she would die here. Shaoqing, Shen Yuanan walked in and saw Shen Yanmo standing in the courtyard looking into the distance. He felt a pain in his heart. He wanted to laugh but couldn't move his mouth to laugh. He sighed and said softly, "Moer, you are suffering." Shen Yanmo looked back and saw that it was his brother, not surprised at all, smiled and said, "Brother is here, come in and sit in the house." The two entered the house one after the other and sat on the couch opposite each other. Shen Yanmo instructed Kai Huyu to pour tea, and said to Shen Yuanan, "My brother is worried, it's all bad for Moer." Kai Huyu did not leave, and Yin Hong's small mouth opened and closed, and she began to complain that the Ho mansion was not good to Shen Yanmo, and she didn't let her down. From the old lady of Wu Changho to the maidservant in charge of the affairs, there is no good thing. It all depends on his wife's soft temper and wants to step on it. Shen Yanmo looked at Shen Yuanan and sighed, "It's not as serious as Kai Huyu said, but I don't want to care about it." Kai Huyu said the same thing in the dream, and she cried and washed her face with tears. Shen Yuanan saw it both distressed and regretful, regretting that she should try her best to stop this marriage. How is the result? The elder brother left Zhuangzi to go to the home mansion to discuss the matter. He was kicked out without talking, he was beaten, and he had a broken leg to recuperate for half a year. He was also disabled and was unable to participate in the scientific examination. It is said that the room leak happened in the evening rain, and the brother's fiancée came to divorce again, and the brother was depressed and unhappy. Now that she knew the ending, she would not allow this to happen. People who only care about this life have a good life. Shen Yuanan knew that Shen Yanmo comforted him, his eyes were reddish, his hands in his sleeves clenched tightly, thinking about coming to the home mansion for theories, can the rich and powerful can bully others? Although their brothers and sisters have no parents, they are not easy to deceive. Shen Yanmo glanced at Shen Yuanan, immediately saw his thoughts, after thinking about it, and then said, "Brother, I want to get together." What she wants should arrive in a few days. There are people in the home mansion who want the lives of their mother and child, the enemy is dark and we are clear. Only 1,000 days to be a thief, there is no reason for 1,000 days to guard against thieves, only to leave the home mansion completely, can the child's life be saved? Shen Yuanan heard these words like a bolt from the blue. If her sister hadn't been wronged by the sky, how could she reconcile? Thinking of Shen Yanmo's crimes in the home mansion, Shen Yuanan immediately blushed and got up to leave. Shen Yanmo quickly grabbed his sleeves, and whispered, "Brother, I know you love me the most." He got up and put Shen Yuanan on the couch, picked up the teacup and handed it to him, "Brother, calm down, listen first. I'm finished. The in the home mansion bullied you, I tore them." Shen Yuanan gritted his teeth and pointed outside, his hoarse voice was somewhat depressed, and his eyes were red as if he wanted someone desperately. The younger sister he and his parents held in their hands since they were young, should have been wronged so much that they wanted to reconcile. If it weren't for nowhere, how could she reconcile? Although the song National Wind is open, and women can stand on their own after leaving, he knows that this road is extremely difficult and is not a last resort. Who wants to take this step? Shen Yanmo pressed Shen Yuanan's shoulders, "How about looking for them desperately, they will treat me well?" In order to cling to the powerful, the Haofu decided that I am greedy for vanity, and that I am another stepmother. It's no wonder that I can have a better life. If my brother is really good for me, he will study hard, and I will find a job in high school in the future. Really rely on. My brother is incompetent, so Moer is wronged. Shen Yuanan choked up with tears. I have my brother guarding me, I don't feel wronged. Shen Yanmo took a sip of tea, glanced at Kai Xiang and said, "I'm talking to my brother, you can go out and help Zhang Ma to cook." Chu Xiang went out and walked to the door to bring the door. Shen Yuanan was immersed in anger, completely unaware of Shen Yanmo's movements, let alone Chu Xiang going out. "Brother, I had a dream last night, it was too real, I was scared in my heart," Shen Yanmo said. Shen Yuanan then returned to his mind and asked, "What did Moer say?" "I had a dream last night and wanted to talk to my brother." Shen Yanmo looked solemn. "What dream?" Seeing her serious, Shen Yuanan knew that the matter was serious. "I dreamed that my brother came to Zhuangzi and knew what had happened to me. I felt uneasy. I went to the home mansion to find a group of people to reason. When the words were inconsistent, my brother was interrupted. The Lanling Wang family used this as an excuse, he retired from his elder brother. Therefore, Moer doesn't want the things in his dreams to become reality. Does his elder brother understand? If something happens to the elder brother, who will protect me?" Shen Yanmo said slowly, her expression full of sorrow. Tears flowed down his cheeks, as if he had experienced it personally. Shen Yuanan was deeply saddened, and hurriedly comforted, "Don't worry, Moer, if your brother doesn't go to the home mansion." At this moment, Shen Yuanan made up his mind to be the master, so that those people would never dare to insult his sister again. Seeing his promise, Shen Yanmo smiled, "Since my brother is here, he will stay a little longer, and a few days later it will be my mother's birthday. Let's go to Yaoguang Temple and pray for my mother." Shen Yuanan naturally agreed. The autumn rain continued for a few days, and then it suddenly cleared. There are occasional horse-drawn carriages in front of the Yaoguang Temple. It seems that the pomp is a nobleman who went to Beijing. Zhuangzi, where Shen Yanmo lives, is very close to Yaoguang Temple. It takes an hour to ride a horse-drawn carriage, and 1 day away from Shangjing. Because of the prosperous incense of the Yaoguang Temple, the nobles in Beijing will go to the Yaoguang Temple to pray for blessings, or ask for marriage, or children, or for future. After getting off the carriage, Shen Yanmo wore a thin shirt and put on a red brocade cloak because of the cool autumn rain. He stopped and stood in front of the temple, looking up at the big golden lip of Dufang at Yaoguang Temple and chuckles. It is said that the Buddha's Dharma is boundless and can universally save all living beings. Why do good people not live long, but bad people live for a long time? It can be seen that Buddhas are sometimes deceived. A carriage slowly stopped not far away. Shen Yanmo was about to leave, and only listened to a young man respectfully saying, "The master is here." Seeing that this man was dressed as a guard of a high-ranking house, the young man held the reins, jumped out of the carriage, and lowered his pedals. Standing aside waiting for the people in the car. The people in the carriage hummed, and the deep voice made people unconsciously shocked. Shen Yanmo was surprised, this sound seemed to be heard somewhere. How could it be possible? How could I have heard this voice without knowing it? Following the reputation, Shen Yanmo saw a slender long with distinct joints, opened the curtain and leaned out, stepped off the carriage, and stood firmly on the ground. He was dressed in a pure white brocade cloak with a hood, covering his face without seeing his appearance, and wearing black boots, spotlessly clean. This person is well dressed and has an extraordinary identity, not something they can provoke. Moer, let's go, the temple door is already open. Shen Yuanan saw Shen Yanmo stunned, turned his head to remind him, and walked towards Yaoguang Temple. Here. Shen Yanmo withdrew his gaze and went after Shen Yuanan. When the man heard Shen Yanmo's voice, his slender body paused slightly, and said to the man beside him, "Come and see, why is she here too?" Could it be that he knew something and followed it on purpose? The guard was unknown, so he was slightly startled. With whom? The woman in front, the man reminded. The guard hesitated for a moment, he was to protect the master's safety, how could he leave easily? The man glared at him, and he immediately chased after him. Shen Yanmo walked into the hall, knelt in front of the Buddha, and bowed with a pious expression on his face. Afterwards, he donated some sesame oil money and went out to find Shen Yuanan. It's hard to come by, she should be relieved if she wants to stroll around. And in a secluded courtyard of Yaoguang Temple, a man dressed in black and Chinese clothes was sitting on a stone bench, holding a book in his hand, and watching intently. A cup of tea was placed on the stone table, and the remaining smoke curled up, and the fragrance of tea was exuded from time to time. You are at ease, but you don't know that I pretend to be you, not only to deal with your old lady's cross-examination, but also to deal with your yin-ying yanyan. The world says you are infatuated, and you want me to say that you are the most merciless. The white-clothed man walked past. Picking up the tea and drank it, still not happy, and renewed a cup for myself. The black-clothed man wanted to speak, but he covered his lips and coughed a few times. If it weren't for the serious injury and the fear of my mother's worries, I wouldn't make such a move. You and I are cousins. Not only are they similar in body shape, but they are also somewhat similar in appearance. No one will doubt if you pretend to be me. After speaking, he coughed again and again. The white-clothed man tugged and frowned in disgust. You are weaker than me. When can you regain your prestige? After speaking, he coughed slightly, and when the black-clothed man looked over, the two of them looked at each other and smiled. He also heard the man in black say, How do you compare with me? I am not healed from a serious injury. You have a fetal insufficiency. Was thrown away. After saying this, he saw that the man in white was not worried, and he said with a sullen expression, It's me who said the wrong thing. You will live a long life. He almost forgot that Yeshaofa hated others to mention his condition. Yeshaofa faded away from his displeasure and said with a smile on his face, Shao Yi, I heard that you don't like your second wife. You haven't consummated your house since you got married. Can't you still? His sharp eyes looked up and down at the opposite man. If the room is rounded, how can there be a falling red that night? Gu Shaiyi was uncomfortable by him. He coughed a few times and his cheeks were flushed. I don't know if it was because of shame or the cough. What are you talking about? I glanced at Yeshaofu, with a meaningful smile flashing in his eyes. You are 26 years old, and you have no wives and concubines, and no children. I heard that you haven't opened a meat, so it's you who can't do it, right? Yeshaofa stared at Gu Shaiyi, looking straight at Gu Shaiyi. Gu Shaiyi was a little absent, picked up his teacup to moisturize his throat, and listened to Yeshaofa's words, You have a green hat on your head. Young Master Gu spouted out the tea he had just drunk, looked at Yeshaofa in disbelief, and said nervously, Ya Yunlin, what do you mean? Isn't that what he thought? Impossible, how could it be? They said at the beginning that Yeshaofa pretended to be himself for a period of time, and waited for his injury to get better before going back, so that his mother would not worry. A few months ago, he chased the leader of the Huns and was ambushed. Finally, he bravely killed the enemy and rushed out of the encirclement, taking the head of the leader of the Huns. After waking up in the barracks, his internal organs seemed to be displaced and his limbs could not move. In order not to worry his mother, he ordered Yeshaofa to come and figure out a way to make Yeshaofa pretend to be himself. Yeshaofa disagreed at first. He was unwilling to deal with Ying Ying Yanyan in the home mansion. Helpless Gu Shaiyi pleaded in every way. Yeshaofa had to agree, and jokingly said, I heard that your second wife has a graceful figure and an extraordinary beauty. If you take me as you and pull me to give the gift of the Lord of the Week, I will reluctantly accept it. What is this in the same sentence? It's what you think. Yeshaofa snorted coldly, I haven't complained about your heirs. At a young age, with a deep mind, he even gave me medicine. It is the most powerful love potion in the world. It is not the blood of a virgin. Fortunately, you didn't round the house, otherwise the king would burst and die. Tossing his sleeves, he said with a cold snort, this king didn't burst and died, but he lost his innocence. She poisoned you by Shen. Gu Shaiyi coughed violently, somewhat in disbelief. In his eyes, the Shen family was only nonsense, speaking softly, and she would tremble when he spoke loudly. The typical Zijiabiu, who could not support Ado, was the reason why his mother liked her. For the safety and well-being of his first-in-law, his mother deliberately chose it. In order to conceive the Gu family's heir, Shen actually poisoned him? It may be possible. He understands Yeshaofa's behavior better, does not lie, and does not bother to lie. There are so many noble ladies in Shangjing, waiting for Yeshaofa's favor, he didn't even look at them, let alone want a married woman. Princess Mingxia Minjian is touching, and she has a heart for Yeshaofu. As long as there is a place for Yeshaofu, there will be a Princess Mingxia. This will not move Yeshaofu, let alone the Shen family. Why, can this king still lie? Yeshaofa placed the cup on the stone table again, his tone hard. Thinking of what happened that night, young Master Yi's silver teeth clenched, wishing to eat Shen's Gu Shaiyi stopped coughing, and a trace of blood spilled from the corner of his lips. He raised his hand and wiped it coldly and said, "What do you want me to do? Brothers are like brothers, and women are like clothes. Unbreakable hands and feet, change clothes at any time. Without the Shen family, there can be Zhang family and Lu family. Furthermore, he has no feelings for the Shen family at all, especially after calculating Ye Xiaofu." Ye Xiaofu didn't answer, but tapped his fingers on the desktop rhythmically. Gu Shaiyi asked again. "Just before the gate of Yaoguang Temple, I'm at your next room, with a man." Ye Xiaofu said leisurely. Gu Shaiyi didn't have any feelings for the Shen family. The Shen family drugged Ye Xiaofu first and was rushed to Zhuangzi. He coughed up blood with anger, got up and walked into the room with his chest. Ye Xiaofu looked at Gu Shaiyi's staggering back, curled his lips and smiled. At this moment, the guard walked in and whispered a few words in Ye Xiaofu's ear. Ye Xiaofu frowned, looked at the door of the room with deep gaze, and whispered, "So it was Shen Yuanan." He actually misunderstood her. As soon as the voice fell, Gu Shaiyi walked out, holding a thin piece of paper in his hand, and handed it to Ye Xiaofu. "This is a wife's letter, you hand it to the Shen family. Let her go back and forth from where?" Ye Xiaofu took the letter of letting go of his wife and carefully read it. Guard said that the relationship between husband and wife is deep and righteous, and he talks about the cause of being shared, and the vows are secluded. Whatever is due to husband and wife, the relationship between the 3 previous lives and the married couple in this life, if the bond is not compatible, it is more resentment, so it is relative. Since the 2 hearts are different, it is difficult to return to the same intention. After the separation of the wife and the wife, I would like to comb the temples, beautiful skirts and crooked eyebrows, and choose high officials the Lord. To resolve grievances and knots, let alone hate each other. 1 is different and 2 are wide, and everyone is happy." He had seen it thrown on the table and smiled. "It's a perfunctory release of wife's letter. By the way, she is also a victim. If I didn't pretend to be you, she would make a mistake." After thinking for a moment, let the guard return to the house. Taking 20,000 taels of silver bills is regarded as compensation to Shens. Gu Shaiyi held his chest and sat down slowly. "Are you not going to marry her?" "Marriage? She is also worthy. Marriage is impossible. If she is willing, this king would like to take her as a concubine, and the palace doesn't care about raising another person." Ye Xiaofu coughed lightly with his fist against his lips. He was weak since childhood, no planning to marry a wife, let alone a scheming girl. Gu Shaiyi glanced at the release of his wife's letter, and said in a deep voice, "What if she agrees to be a concubine?" As far as he knows, the Shen family is only profitable, and the mind of clinging to the powerful will not rest. Even if the Shen family disagrees, with the temperament of the Shen family, they will definitely climb the big tree of King's mansion. Even if it is to let his daughter be a concubine, not to mention the death of both parents of the Shen family, and the uncle and aunt are extremely snobbery. Who would really call the shots for the Shen family? It's just to raise one more person and let him fend for himself. Ye Xiaofu picked up the heelashu, folded it into his arms, and asked Gu Shaiyi to have a good health and strive to return to the home mansion earlier. Facing those Ying Ying and Yan Yan all day, he was really helpless, and there was also a lady who looked at him eagerly. The water in the marquee mansion of Wuchang was deep. Thinking of this, Ye Xiaofu felt that he had done a good thing to get the Shen family out of the sea of suffering as soon as possible. Gu Shaiyi looked at Ye Xiaofu's back and said thank you softly. Ye Xiaofu looked back, smiled and said, "I gave you a cuckold and thanked me. Our brothers are really affectionate." He patted his chest and said, "Don't worry, I'll help you drive people out. You marry Miss Cousin." Mrs. Gu valued the Shen family as his successor, but Gu Shaiyi strongly opposed it. He likes his aunt's concubine. The name is gentle and virtuous, dignified and generous, and he loves his concubine and concubine. To marry an outsider, it is better to marry someone who knows the roots. Although Wenwan is the concubine of the ant's family, she is in the residence of the Lord. His successor is not wronged by her either. Shen Yanmo didn't know what happened in the temple. She strolled with Shen Yuanan, tasted the suzai dim sum in the temple and exited, walked to the gate of the temple, and saw the man in white again, but with a slight glance, she immediately retracted her gaze, walked towards the carriage, and stepped on the foot. Carriage. Shen Yuanan sat in front of the car and drove, raising his whip on the horse's butt, and the carriage slowly left with his brother and sister. Ye Shaofu touched his nose, cleared his throat, and said to the person beside him, Lin Qi, has the charm of this king disappeared? She didn't even look at it, but just glanced inadvertently, like an inadvertent in the vast sea of people. At a glance, it was extremely faint, but it seemed to cast a stone in the lake of human heart. He was lying under him that day to release the charming and enchanting temptation, but today it is like a stranger, making Ye Shaofu extremely uncomfortable. Lin Qi stood and moved slightly, glanced at Ye Shaofu first, then looked at the carriage that was going away, and decided to tell the truth. The prince's charm is not diminished, but he hasn't shown his face. The implication was that people didn't see your appearance clearly. Do you know whether you are round or flat, beautiful or ugly? Ye Shaofu gave him a brain collapse and snorted coldly, Elm's head. Jumped into the carriage and got in, and after sitting down, he told Lynch to drive. Lynch asked where he was going. Ye Shaofu touched his chest and said back to Kyoto. He still has important things to do. Lynch shook the rein, shouting in his mouth, drive. The carriage gradually drove away from the Yaoguang temple. On the secluded trail, the sound of birds was crisp, and a carriage drove unhurriedly. Shen Yuanan waved his whip and talked about interesting things in the academy. My brother has been here for a few days, when will I go back to the college? In the carriage, Shen Yanmo sat dignified, his eyes closed, as if he was asleep. Without waiting for Shen Yuanan's reply, he heard Shen Yanmo say, it is better to hit the sun if you choose a day. Brother, let's set off now. If you delay too much studies, the master should blame you again. Some things are better not to be seen by my brother, so as not to make him sad. Shen Yuanan thought of the stubborn old man, shook his head and laughed. In order not to disappoint his sister, he casually responded, I will send you back and return to the academy. Don't worry, my brother can't delay his studies. Before coming, I completed the task assigned by the master in advance. If this were not the case, how could the master let others go? Shen Yanmo wanted to compliment Shen Yuanan for a few words, but when the carriage stopped suddenly, there was another boy crying for help, please, save my mother, please. I'm willing to sell my life as a slave, please. You save my mother. Shen Yuanan tightened the reins and jumped out of the carriage, and stepped forward to bend over to pull him up. You get up first, why suddenly rush out to stop us? If I didn't pull the reins in time to stop the carriage, you would be trampled to death by the horse. At the age of 7 or 8, the child was all dirty, like a beggar, with red eyes, tears raining down, choked up, and pleaded, my mother is going to die, please save her. I am willing to sell her as a slave. Shen Yanmo opened the curtain, got out of the carriage and walked over, took out his veil and wiped his face, and whispered softly, where is your mother and how are we going to save her? The child wanted to speak and was interrupted by Shen Yuanan. He pulled Shen Yanmo aside and whispered, Moer, don't be reckless. There is no shop in front of the village. A child suddenly appears. It is suspicious no matter how you look at it. Let's be careful. For good. Shen Yanmo looked at the child's desperate affection, and smiled happily, I understand my brother's thoughts, but this child is too pitiful, and it's not like telling lies. Saving a life is better than building a 7th-level Buddha. First save the person. Talk later. She was not reckless, and a mother and son of beggars appeared in her dream, but they became corpses. If she didn't go to the Yaoguang temple to pray for blessings after waking up, then the mother and son would become lonely ghosts again. No matter, they are all poor people, save them if you can. Shen Yanmo stepped forward and took the child by the hand, not dismissing his dirty smell at all, and asked the child in a soft voice. After walking a few steps, she turned around and asked Shen Yuanan to bring snacks and water. Looking at the child, I shouldn't have a good meal for several days. The child said as he walked, his tear-stained face was grateful. Shen Yuanan climbed into the carriage, took out the snack box and water bag and followed behind, looking at the big and small figures, shaking his head and sighing. With a stick of incense, Shen Yanmo followed the little beggar to a ruined temple. The ruined temple fell into disrepair for a long time, and it was full of failures. A gust of wind blows and may collapse at any time. Standing at the door, he heard coughing from inside. The little beggar let go of Shen Yanmo's hand and ran into the ruined temple, shouting in his mouth, "Mother, mother, I have brought someone here, let's go to see a doctor." There was crying in his voice, mixed with joy. Shen Yanmo raised his leg and stepped in, only to hear an old and weak voice, "It's a hard rock." After speaking, he coughed a few times. The old woman heard the footsteps, looked at Shen Yanmo with hollow eyes, and said cautiously, "Who are you?" The boy named Shishi hurriedly explained, "Mother, she is here to save us." He stayed there for a long time before he saw the son and his wife. Shen Yanmo handed the snack and water to the mother and the son, so that they could pad their stomachs first. After eating and drinking, Shen Yanmo and Shen Yuanan helped the old woman into the carriage, and the little beggar climbed in. Shen Yuanan still drives. The woman put her child in her arms and looked at Shen Yanmo with all her vigilance, "Who are you and what is your purpose?" Shen Yanmo looked at the woman up and down, pinched a snack and handed it to the stone, "Eat it." He didn't pick up the stone, and licked his lips unconsciously, obviously wanting to eat but caring about the mother's feelings. The woman tightened her arms around the stone, and asked, "What do you want to do? You don't have a copper plate under your body. What can I do for you? If it weren't for your son to stop my carriage, I don't even know that you live in a ruined temple. If you meet, you are destined. I am also a poor man, and I was driven to the Zhuangzi by my husband. If you don't dislike it, live in Zhuangzi first and recover from the illness before you make plans." Shen Yanmo said leisurely. After hearing this, Shen Yuanan's hand holding the rein tightened. Gu's family deceived too much, and one day he would avenge his sister. The woman pondered for a long time, her empty eyes looked in Shen Yanmo's direction, and she didn't know what she was thinking. Just when Shen Yanmo thought she was not talking, she touched the top of the stone and said, "Eat, thank you. Lady." The godless eyes appeared dizzy, and his voice trembled slightly. Unlike ordinary village women who behave and talk, she seems to be a person with a story. The carriage drove slowly, and arrived at Zhuangzi in half an hour. Shen Yanmo instructed Zhang's mother to settle in the stone mother and son, and ordered the dumb uncle Zhang to go to town to ask a doctor to treat the woman. She and Kaihuyu helped Shen Yuanan pack things and planned to send Shen Yuanan away. Shen Yuanan was sent away. She had just returned to the hospital. Zhang's mother came and said that the doctor had already been here. The woman was not a serious problem, but was suffering from a lack of nutrition. All right. As for the woman's eyes, she had been blind a few years earlier, and it might not be easy to restore her eyesight. Shen Yanmo said that she knew, and told Zhang's mother to take good care of her, and she was also a poor couple. She didn't care about the mother and child. Shen Yanmo was thinking about the Wuchang Haofu. According to the development in the dream, the 2 days and Li Shu should have arrived. Shen Yanmo thought, well. Ye Shaofu returned to Kyoto and changed to look like Gu Sheye. He took Gu Sheye's entourage and went to the Wuchang Ho mansion. He just walked in and met her gentleman. She saw Gu Sheye smiled and greeted her with a bright light in her eyes. "Cousin, are you back?" Gu Sheye furrowed his brows, hummed, and avoided the gentle enthusiasm on his side. I have something to deal with, go to the study first. He left without looking back. When Wan looked at Gu Shaiyi's slender and straight figure stomped his feet severely, the gentleness on his face was replaced by hideousness. Aunt Wan, I heard that my father is back, can you see it? A little girl leaped to Wen Wan's side, dressed up like a flower, and naturally grabbed her arm. Twitching the corners of her lips gently, showing the softest smile, she held the little girl's hand and said, Sister Yun, your father has something to go to the study. Where do you want to go? I'll accompany you. Yesterday, you didn't like it. Is a bracelet from Ruyazai, can Aunt Wan buy it for you? The little girl is Gu Shaiyi's eldest daughter, Gu Yun, the jewel in the palm of the home mansion. If you want to marry into the home mansion, you must first please the little girl in front of you. When you enter the home mansion and become Mrs. Ho, how many bracelets do you need to have this splendid wealth? Gu Yun nodded and complimented her gentle words, thinking of her stepmother at home. Her brows were furrowed, her lips pouted, and her tone of disdain was somewhat dismissive. Then how can Shens be my stepmother? She raised her eyes and looked at a gentle smile. 2 times, it would be great if Aunt Wan could be my mother. Wen Wan's cheeks flushed a little bit shyly and lowered her head. Don't talk nonsense at the children's house, the cousin has already entered the house, and no matter how many are not, it is your stepmother. Sister Yun will continue to talk nonsense and make people hear the gossip. Come, but it's not good. Gu Yun disagrees, they were all driven to Zhuangzi, and they may be dismissed sometime. Glancing at her gently, Gu Yun covered her mouth, blinked her round eyes, then laughed, and took her gentle hand a little bit coquettishly. Aunt Wan, let's not talk about the unlucky person, let's go out. Well, my father is back, so Aunt Wan will make a few more new clothes, so that they can be in Daddy's eyes. The voice fell, and the women were ordered to prepare the sedan chair and walk out with gentle arms. Gu Shaiyi took out the book from his arms and left the book in Wu Chang Haofu's study, looked at it again on the exhibition table, and shouted to the outside, let steward Gu come here. A cup of tea Kung Fu, the door rang. Gu Shaiyi yelled in, and an old man who was over 100 years old and grey-haired walked in, with a mustache on his slightly thin face, and his narrow eyes with gleaming eyes. He walked to the desk and shouted respectfully, what's the order of Lord Ho? Gu Shaiyi sat on the rose chair behind the desk with a page of paper in his hand. He heard the butler's voice and raised his head, and gave the helishu in his hand to the steward Gu. The Zhuangzi in the suburbs of Kyoto gives the title deed to Shen. Find it out. I remember that there were 2 old people on Zhuangzi, who had no children. Their sales deeds were given to the Shen family. Then they went to the account office to pay 10,000 silver notes, together with Shen's dowry and Shen's people. Shen sent it to Zhuangzi. In terms of money, Ye Shaofu has always been generous, and he has reconciled, and he will not treat the woman badly. Steward Gu was puzzled, and slandered in his heart, is this humiliating Shen? After looking at the case table, Helisha suddenly realized, and without asking the reason, he took the things and exited the study. Gu Shaiyi grabbed a book, flipped through a few pages at random, got up and walked out of the study, and one often followed him and asked him where he was going. Go to the old lady's yard. Gu Shaiyi said while walking. When Mrs. Gu learned that Gu Shaiyi and Shen were in peace, her chin almost fell off. Thinking of peace, she slapped her hands on the table, and furious, why peace? Abuse of prostitutes, disrespect to aunt, such a person should stop NS. In the eyes of others, it is the man's fault that the husband and wife are separated, and the son should not have such a stain. Gu Shaiyi understood Mrs. Gu's temperament, and was not anxious to explain, and glanced at the angry Mrs. Gu with a calm expression. Helishu has been sent to the Shen family. Mrs. Gu sighed after hearing the words, thought for a moment, took a sip from the teacup, and looked up at Gu Shaiyi. I know you don't like this Shen's. I was also thinking about Yunar and Chang'er at the beginning. If we marry a background, deep thoughts are hard to handle. If you have a prostitute, what should Yunar and Changer do? The Shen family was chosen after thinking about it. His status, both parents died, no one is in charge. Gu Shaiyi said nothing. The old woman said again, since you have divorced, you can marry one or that girl again. I can see that these days, that girl is good to you and to Yunar and Chang'er. You figure it out. Gu Shaiyi got up and walked out. He walked to the door and heard Mrs. Gu say, Yunar lives in the house. If you can accompany her more. Gu Shaiyi hummed, saying that he would accompany her when he had time. Gu Shaiyi was also accompanied by Wen Wan, and if it had anything to do with him, he was a fake. It is not him that Wen Wan wants to marry. Wen Wan accompanied Gu Yun to Ruyazai, bought a bracelet that Gu Yun was optimistic about, and returned to the home mansion happily. When she saw the servant's wife moving things, Shen's dowry Liu's mother led Dongxiu to the side with a sad face. Yelled in his mouth, be careful, these are all our lady's things, break your skin carefully. At noon this afternoon, Mother Lu was doing needlework in the yard, talking about her master. Steward Gu came to visit suddenly, breaking the original tranquility. Mother Lu was very anxious after hearing Guanjiagu's intentions, and wanted to ask about the situation, but Guanjiagu said nothing, and asked him to ask Lord Ho or his wife. Mother Lu didn't dare to find Wu Changhao, enduring the doubts in her heart, she wanted to see his wife and ask why. What is this for? Gently stopped and glanced at Mama Lu, her gaze fell on the steward Gu, still smiling softly, with her back erect, like the master of the home mansion. Master Ho ordered to send Mrs. S things to Zhuangzi. The steward Gu nodded slightly. He was an old man in the home mansion. He had been on the battlefield with Lord Ho, and even the old lady had to give him a bit of noodles, so he was very respected by everyone in the home mansion. Wen Wan was overjoyed, and secretly said, is this not letting Shen come back? Does she have a chance? Without waiting for her to ask, Gu Yun on the side spoke up, her excitement could not be concealed in her voice, my father divorced her? It's time for such a vicious woman to divorce. My mother should be a lady like Aunt Wan, not the ruined, most ministered woman. Her daughter is comparable. In her eyes, Shen Yanmo was worthless. If it were not for luck, how could she be her stepmother if she was taken a few glances by her grandmother? Mother Lu held back her anger, and raised her chin a few steps forward, Miss, you are the aunt of the mansion. Madam is now your aunt. It's not good for you to open your mouth and stay in your family. People who know you say you are old. People who are ignorant and don't know think that the Ho's family has no rules and don't know how to raise their daughters. The old slave advises the eldest lady, please be cautious in this case. Seeing that the eldest lady is getting older, it will be time to say kiss in 2 years. If it's not good, those noble families will behave a lot, and it will be bad if it delays the eldest lady. She despised Wu Changhaofu. The military commander was born and his ancestor was also from a poor family in the farming family, and he was not as good as the scholarly family of the Shen family. The Marquis of Wuchang is now trembling with the merits of the old man, the real family is honorable, who wants to marry the Marquis of Wuchang. When the old man was able to marry the daughter of the Ye family in King he burned a high incense. The old lady's parents died when she was young, and she was dependent on her elder brother to live a life under the fence. In order to cling to the powerful, the Ye family married the old lady to the old man. Now the old lady's maiden elder brother is King Jing, who has saved his life to the first emperor. After the founding of the country, he was named the only king of different surnames, and the Ye family brothers and sisters had a pivotal position in the clan. Following the tide, the Marquis of Wuchang has improved its status a lot, but compared with the real families, it is still a bit weaker. Gu Yun was born spoiled and flattered by the maids and women. Whenever he heard such words, even the Shen himself was careful to please her. But now, Mother Lu, a dog slave, dared to teach her, raising her hand to slap her mother. Stop it! Gu Shaiyi walked straight over, glanced at Gu Yun, and said solemnly, "A servant is also worth your own hands, and what she said is right." Gu Yun had been wronged in the first place, but now when she heard her father turning towards Mama Lu, her eyes were red, her lips trembled, and her teary eyes looked at Gu Shaiyi with grievances. "Daddy? Daddy doesn't care for me anymore." After she finished, she said. She ran away with a whimper while covering her mouth. Wen Wan stretched out her hand and called to Gu Yun, let her slow down, and then looked at Gu Shaiyi. "Dilemma, cousin, Sister Yun is still young, and slowly teach you why you should face her in front of the next person." Without a word, she went after Gu Yun. After leaving everyone's sight, a triumphant smile appeared on Wen Wan's face. The more Mother Lu talked about Gu Yun, the more Gu Yun hated the Shen family, and the Shen family would never want to come back in this life. Mother Lu stood not far from Gu Shaiyi and stopped talking. Gu Shaiyi looked at her squintingly. "Ben Ho and the Shen family have reconciled. You are her people, and you should not be in the Ho mansion." Mother Lu was struck by lightning when she heard this. "Heli, Ho Ye and his wife, Heli? How so?" Mother Lu didn't have time to think, raised her foot and walked out of the Ho mansion and got into a carriage. She wanted to see the wife. If the wife knew about the peace, she might not be sad. The wife suffered a lot of grievances when she was in her natal family. Married to the Ho mansion, she lived with care every day. Who would have thought that Master Ho would be indifferent? The old lady would not like it, the daughter would not be married, and the daughter would count her life like walking on thin ice. Now that he Li, what should be done? Thinking of this, Mother Lu burst into tears. She didn't know that this was what Shen Yanmo asked for. The next morning, Shen Yanmo had just had breakfast when he heard someone knock on the door. Kai Huyu took the initiative to open the door, and Xiaoqing led her Mother Lu and Dongxiu in. Mother Lu was stunned when she saw Shen Yanmo, and then she grabbed her arm and burst into tears. "My sister, you have suffered." On the way, she flanked, and finally knew that their sister and Ho Ye were true. After Heli, the Haofa gang who killed Qiandao would bully her sister. Shen Yanmo lifted up Mama Lu, wiped her tears, pulled people into the house, made a cup of tea, and handed it to her. "Mother Lu is not anxious, the Ho mansion is the land of the rich, the tiger and the leopard, not a place to stay for a long time. Now that I am out, I am quite quiet." Mother Lu was holding a teacup, and the tears on her face grew even more after hearing this. Her sister was wronged, and she would rather stay away than go back. Shen Yanmo persuaded her again, and Mother Lu stopped the tears. Mom Zhang came to report outside, saying that Steward Gu wanted to see his wife. "Let him wait a moment, I'll be here." Shen Yanmo tidied up and got ready to go out, but Mama Lu grabbed her arm. Shen Yanmo looked back at Mother Lu. "It's nothing more than a dowry, it doesn't get in the way. Isn't she looking forward to this day? I'll go with you." Mother Lu put down the teacup and stood up. After waking up, Shen Yanmo was waiting for this moment. After getting the Helishu and leaving Wuchang Haofu, she was free, and this time she would not let those people dominate her life. This scene also appeared in her dream. What she did at the time, she cried and disagreed, passed out, and found out that she was pregnant. She thought she could return to the Ho mansion when she was pregnant, but she waited for a few months. What was waiting? The child died tragically, and died by himself. After waking up from the dream, she wanted to change her life. When Shen Yanmo saw Steward Gu, he stretched out his hand and said, "Take it out." The monk Gu Guangjia's Zhang Er was puzzled, his eyebrows frowned and he was stunned. "What does the madam want? She knows about the banknotes and the separation from the book?" "Helishu." Shen Yanmo gave 3 simple words. Steward Gu took out from his arms and Li Shu and handed it to Shen Yanmo, staring at her with diligent eyes. "Madam seems to know. Not crying or making trouble, Heli is sparse and common to her. Things, the piece on the face is not a fake, it's calm as if nothing happened, it seems it shouldn't be like this. On the way here, he imagined that Shen would cry and make trouble, arguing to see Master Ho, but not accepting everything peacefully. Shen Yanmo unfolded and took a look at Li Shu, and gave the Li Shu to Mother Lu, and asked her to put it away, and then said to the steward Gu, "Have you gone to the Yamen for the record? Do you have anything else to explain?" The steward Gu waved his hand, and the young man offered a brocade box with both hands. Steward Gu took it and handed it to Shen Yanmo respectfully, "This is for you from Lord Ho." He also talked about Zhuangzi and the mute Jiangshu and Jiang Ma. Shen Yanmo glanced at the brocade box, ordered Mama Lu to take it, and said lightly, "I know, you can go back and return to life." In the study of the Wuchang Haofu, Gu Shaiyi was practicing calligraphy. Hearing Gu Guangjia's reply, his writing hand paused, and looked up at Gu Guangjia, "That's it. Don't cry or make trouble, accept it calmly, it doesn't seem to fit Shen. His character. That's it." Steward Gu replied. Gu Shaiyi waved his hand, "I see, you have worked hard, go down and rest." Steward Gu exited at the sound, and just out of the study, saw Wen Wan walking in with a tray, and quickly stopped to greet him. Wen Wan saw Steward Gu's eyes light up, she took a few steps forward and looked at the study door, and asked in a low voice, "Is the matter that Home Master explained?" Steward Gu said it was done. He also talked about Shen Yanmo's situation. Wen Wan couldn't believe it, shouldn't Shen Yanmo cry? Why is it so peaceful? It shouldn't. Is this a method of indulgence? But since she and he left the home mansion, don't even want to come back for the rest of her life. As everyone knows, Shen Yanmo never wants to return to the home mansion in this life. When the steward Gu left, she knocked gently on the door, heard the voice of Gu Shaiyi, opened the door, put the tray on the table, walked to the side of the case, looked at the words written by Gu Shaiyi, and couldn't help reading it out. Voice, the hometown looks long to the east. The double-sleeved dragon and the clock quit tears, and immediately met without paper and pen, and reported peace with the emperor's words. Good words, if I remember correctly, this is a poem by Sen Shen. My cousin thinks of the battlefield again. What happened? Gu Shaiyi put down the pen, and did not answer the gentle words, is there something wrong? The deep and magnetic voice made Wen Wan tremble, and she blushed unconsciously, can't you come to see your cousin if you have nothing to do? I personally stewed the wolfberry and white fungus porridge, which is the most nourishing. Cousin will try it. A small bowl was handed to Gu Shaiyi. Gu Shaiyi stared slightly, apparently remembering the bad picture, pushing away his gentle hand, his voice was a little cold, I don't like to eat these sweet things, you can save it. Pick up a book and sit down. Watch it intently. Wen Wan looked awkwardly at the bowl in her hand, curling her lips a little to cry. Seeing Gu Shaiyi ignored her, he quit, and walked to the door to look back at Gu Shaiyi. One day, this man belongs to her, and everything in the home mansion belongs to her. After Wen Wan left, the room became quiet. Gu Shaiyi called Lin Qi into the air. As soon as the voice fell, a strong guard appeared in front of him. Gu Shaiyi put down the book in his hand, go to Zhuangzi to take a look and see what that woman is doing. Lynch agreed to leave. Gu Shaiyi fell into deep thought. The woman was greedy for wealth and was separated from Gu Shaiyi. She should cry, not be so peaceful. What exactly does she want to do? Is it interesting to retreat? When Lin Qi came to Zhuangzi, Shen Yanmo asked someone to cook a table and set it in the side hall. There were not many people on the Zhuangzi. There were 4 masters and servants of Shen Yanmo, plus Jiangshu, Jiang Ma and Stone Mother and his son, for a total of 8 people. The table was small and crowded. She also bought some sweet-scented osmanthus stuffed, saying it was a celebration and a departure. Everyone doesn't understand, shouldn't a woman be together and be heartbroken? Why is Shen Yanmo so happy that she even sang a few small tunes during the day and celebrated in the evening? Shen Yanmo picked up the wine glass with a smile on his face, come on, let's have a drink to celebrate my departure from the fire pit of the home mansion." After speaking, he raised his neck and drank it. Others also picked up their glasses and drank. The golden lady looked at Shen Yanmo with hollow eyes. "You don't regret it? As Mrs. Ho, she has endless glory and wealth. If she can give it up, she can give it up. If she can give it up, her mind is not comparable to others. If she could want to get away with that person back then, would there be another opportunity?" The golden lady didn't know that Shen Yanmo's mind was paid for by the price of blood. Shen Yanmo took a sip of wine and smiled. "What do you regret? How can I know you if I don't come out, and how can I know the vastness of the world?" The golden lady didn't say a word, her hand holding the wine glass increased her strength a bit. Lynch stopped on the roof, uncovered the tiles, and looked at the lively scene below through the yellow candle light. After watching for a while, she felt that Shen Yanmo really wanted to leave the home mansion. Put the tiles back in place and left. When he returned to the home mansion, Lin Chi told Gu Sheye everything he had seen. Gu Sheye listened, slammed the book on the table, stood up abruptly, coughed a few times with his fist against his lips, and a bit of questioning in his voice. "You said she was celebrating. Not crying or making trouble, accepting calmly. That's it, I'm still celebrating. What to celebrate? Celebrating leaving the home mansion, or regaining my free body, and I can hook up." Lin Chi shook his head. The subordinates don't know. He also didn't expect Shen Yanmo to do this, open-minded, with a strong heart under his weak appearance. "Good, good, very good." Gu Sheye nodded and gritted his teeth. Anyone who knows him knows that he is angry. Lynch felt even more strange, and whispered, "Wang Yat, what are you angry about? She is Ho Yi's wife. She celebrates with Li Wei. It is Ho Ye who should be angry. You are a fake or a counterfeit, this matter. It has nothing to do with you." Gu Sheye raised his hand to give him a brain collapse. Lin Chi was prepared and stepped back, not afraid of death, and said, "Master, Madam Heli, you have a chance, you should be happy. Follow the prince. For a long time, I haven't seen which woman the prince is interested in. Even Princess Mingxia could not attract the attention of the prince." As if someone had guessed his mind, Gu Sheye yelled in a low voice, "Go away!" Lynch disappeared immediately, faster than a ray of light. Gu Sheye walked to the window, opened the window, and looked at the boundless night, lost in thought. In the other courtyard of the home mansion, Wen Wan sat opposite Gu Yun, holding a tie in her hand, and stroking it carefully. From time to time, she glanced at the opposite Gu Yun. "Yuner, Master Ho and his wife have reconciled. Do you know? This matter was spread all over the capital, and Gu Yun didn't know it for no reason." Gu Yun kept working in her hands, remembering her grandmother's words, and giving Wen Wan a smile. "I know, it's spread all over the mansion. If I say that the Shen family should have left long ago, take it and leave the book, too. She knows herself. This morning, the Shen family still came to the house to make trouble. Dad didn't see them. Grandma saw it. The grandmother humiliated the Shen family. It was a relief. The grandmother said that she should not be too enthusiastic about Wen Wan. If she easily wins the position of Madam Ho, she will despise their siblings in the future. It is best to be cold and let her understand that their siblings' status in the Ho's mansion will be treated well after they marry. Don't you have any other ideas?" Wen Wan tilted her head to look at Gu Yun, with a gentle smile on her face, and a deep hatred in her heart. This little hoof clamored for her to be a mother. Now that Shen is really gone, but I didn't mention a word, how could this be so? Gu Yun is a child, and she thinks about gentleness and usual goodness. She has forgotten Mrs. Gu's instructions, chuckles, and grabs gentle hands with both hands. "Don't worry, Aunt Wan, you will be my mother, Daddy. I like you, my grandmother has agreed to your father's request." Wen Wan blushed when she heard this, raised her hand and nodded Gu Yun's white forehead, groaning, "What are you talking about? You are a clever ghost, you can't hide anything from you. The two talked for a while, and fell asleep separately, and they were speechless all night. The second aunt of the Shen family touched a nail in the home mansion. When she returned, she complained and scolded Shen Yanmo as a witty-eyed wolf. The Shen family was so good to her, she did not lack food and clothing, and let her marry into the home mansion to enjoy her glory. Rich, how did she repay the Shen family? If she doesn't discuss matters like this with her family, are there any of these elders in her eyes? It's just a witty-eyed wolf who is unfamiliar. Mr. Shen and Mrs. Shen were also angry, feeling that Shen Yanmo's wings became bigger and harder, and he was out of their control. Second Uncle Shen is a doctor of Fengzi. He has no real power in an idle position and wants to rely on the home mansion to go up. The home mansion married Shen Yanmo for 1 year, and he was still a doctor of Fengzi. I didn't get any good points, and I felt aggrieved. I ate behind closed doors in the afternoon and then was humiliated by Mrs. Gu. I had to pretend to be a grandson to compliment others, and I was suffocated long ago. Hearing his wife scolding Shen Yanmo, not only did not help intercede, but also added fuel to the flames. The girl Moer is too shameless. Since ancient times, no woman has dared to leave. This tells our daughter how to marry. Shen Ershiv finished speaking and looked at his parents. Mr. Shen raised his hand, slapped the table hard, glaring at everyone. Don't say anything, go to Zhuangzi tomorrow morning to ask, see if there is still room for relaxation. Mo girl will die in Ho Mansion, can't fall into the reputation of the Shen family. Second Uncle Shen and Second Aunt Shen looked at each other, and they could see the deep meaning in each other's eyes. Shen Yanmo had already expected that the Shen family came home. The grandfather of the Shen family had a fancy face, conservative thinking, and would never allow his children to reconcile. He believes that if a woman marries a husband, even if she dies, she should go to her husband's ancestral grave. Today is the old woman Shen and the second aunt of the Shen family. After entering the door, she will count down Shen Yanmo first. Shen Yanmo sat on the main seat and listened quietly, occasionally looking at them with a little contempt in his eyes, and the corners of his lips were slightly raised, as if watching juggling. It's just that she lowered her head and no one noticed. When the second Aunt Shen's words fell, Shen Yanmo asked softly, "Auntie second, are you finished?" Listen carefully with some choked crying. Second Aunt Shen pointed to Shen Yanmo's hatred that iron can't make steel, then the Haofu said that peace and separation will make peace. Why are they? You too, your temper is too soft, let them squeeze round and flatten. Shen Yanmo lowered her head and squeezed out 2 tears, took out her veil, wiped it, and whispered, "Auntie, Moer can't. The power of the home mansion is overwhelming. I haven't seen it. A few days ago, the steward Gu sent and left the book, and Moer cried, made trouble, and even forced him to death. The home mansion did not let go, it was not that Moer did something wrong. It is indeed that Master Ho has his own heart. It's that lady who has been living in the home mansion and is used to please Ho's sons and daughters. Ho's prostitute slandered me and abused her. It's really wrong. You have raised Moer for many years, and you know Moer's temperament best. I dare not, and will not do things that abuse others." Old Madame Shen looked at Shen Yanmo, who was crying, and said in doubt, "Old Madame Gu said that you disrespect your aunt." Without a word, Shen Yanmo hurriedly interjected, "Grandma, Moer did not dare to forget your teachings for a moment." Forget the grandmother's teachings. But the home mansion just doesn't like Moer. Even the maids of the home mansion are all admiring. Mo. The woman did something wrong, only the abandoned, and there is no peace. To be honest, the home mansion does not want me at all, Moer, and Moer can't. Grandmother, you have eaten maybe Moer. There is a lot of salt, can I help Moer think of a way? Moer doesn't want to get away from him. Moer wants to go back to the home mansion and ask grandmother to think about it. Tears flowed down her cheeks, she got up and thumped on her knees, knocked several heads together, and shouted in her mouth to let Mrs. Shen be the master. Mrs. Shen was confused for a while, what should not be done? Does home mansion have the final say? What can she do? She lifted up Shen Yanmo and opened her mouth not knowing what to say. Aunt Shen was afraid that Shen Yanmo would return to Shen's house and took out her veil to wipe Shen Yanmo's tears. You child, you should kneel as you say it is. It's not that we are cruel. There is really nothing we can do. Let's go too. The Haofu inquired about the situation, they were firm and didn't plan to want you anymore. Shen Yanmo pushed away second Aunt Shen's hand, and knelt on the ground again. Auntie, Moer wants to go home, so I beg your second aunt to agree to Moer's request. This. Second Aunt Shen's hand stiffened, and she glanced at Mrs. Shen. Seeing that Mrs. Shen was silent, she immediately understood her meaning and threw off her handkerchief. Hi, Moer, it's not an aunt. If you agree to your request, you also know the situation of our family. Although you are not abandoned and your reputation is not good, if you go back, how will your younger brothers get married? How will your sisters get married? You can live here with peace of mind, and just say what you are missing. Maybe Hoye will let you go back when he thinks of you. When Shen Yanmo heard this, her tears were like broken beads, and she looked at Mrs. Shen with tears in her eyes. She knelt on the ground and couldn't help herself, as if Mrs. Shen didn't agree to her, she was going to kneel for a long time. Mrs. Shen pulled Shen Yanmo up, said some comforting words, and left with someone, without mentioning Shen Yanmo's return to Shen's house. When Mrs. Shen left, Mother Lu walked in and asked in a low voice, Miss, the Shen family is too affectionate. When the master and madam left, they left a lot of things. They didn't want you to go back. A woman was alone. It's really chilling that I can't imagine how painful and difficult it is for the Shen family to be so desperate. Of course they don't want me to go back. If I marry again, I won't have to have a dowry. Let's leave it alone, my brother and I are not in the house. Those things belong to them. If I go back, do they dare to blatantly take possession of my parents' things? Shen Yanmo stood at the door of Zhuangzi, looking at the carriage going away. She knew the selfishness of the Shen family, she knew it in her dream, and she wouldn't be sad now. She will get it back sooner or later because of their siblings. When the carriage disappeared, Shen Yanmo took the people back to Zhuangzi, and just turned around and saw the stone supporting the golden lady walking here. Stone saw Shen Yanmo from a distance, and helped the golden lady stop and greet her with a smile. Shen Yanmo greeted him a few steps and said to Shitu, your mother's complexion is much better, and there will be no problem in a few days. Miss Yat, if it weren't for my wife and me, we would have starved to death. Shishi's expression was full of excitement. He doesn't regret stopping Shen Yanmo's carriage the last. The golden lady looked at Shen Yanmo with hollow eyes, thank you madam for taking me in. The old woman is much better, and it's time to leave. Shen Yanmo looked at Lady Jin. She seldom speaks and can get out of bed and walk around. She just sits at the door and looks at the sky, her dull eyes staring into the distance, not knowing what she is thinking. Shen Yanmo always knew that she was a person with a story, but she didn't want to say anything. In the past few days, Shen Yanmo only knows that her surname is Jin, and others call her Lady Jin. Do you have a place to live? If you don't have a place to go, just live here. We are all suffering people, so we can help if we can. Shen Yanmo really helped the mother and son. In the dream, if there is a place to go to the wild corpse of the mother and son, it will not end up like that. Stone looked at the golden lady eagerly, hoping that the golden lady would agree. The golden lady hesitated for a moment, thank you madam, I am grateful for coming to your mansion for a long time and I am grateful. Can madam find a quiet place, I want to talk with madam. Shen Yanmo took the initiative to step forward and held the golden lady's arm, let's go play with the stone, I'll talk to your mother. Shishi looks like 8 or 9 years old, but he is already 10 years old. In the past 2 years, he has been begging with the golden lady, not having enough to eat and clothing, which delayed his growth. He was still a child at the age of 10, and when he heard Shen Yanmo's words, "Thank you," and went to Kaiyu to play. Shen Yanmo supported the golden lady and said as he walked, "I know you are a person with a story. You don't want to say that you can leave it alone. Everyone will have their own secrets." The golden lady looked towards Shen Yanmo and smiled indifferently, "It's really good to have such a temperament at a young age. If I had your open-mindedness back then, I wouldn't fall into the field where I am today." The two talked, and sat on the shiji under the porch. Shen Yanmo asked someone to make a pot of tea and deliver it. Mother Lu moved a small table and set it aside. Dongxiu used a tray to hold a pot of tea and 2 cups, and put them directly on the small table, ready to pour the tea. Shen Yanmo waved his hand and refused, "Go ahead, I'll be fine." Then he poured a cup of tea and handed it to Lady Jin, "Speak slowly, don't worry. It starts from 20 years ago." The golden lady was holding a teacup and looking at the sky, with tears in her waveless eyes. It turned out that the golden lady belonged to the Jin family in Longxi, and the Jin family had been in the medicinal material business for generations. In the generation of the golden lady, there was only this one daughter. The Jin family naturally spoiled them and raised them until they were 16, when they were married. The Jin family is a merchant. Since ancient times, the scholars, farmers, commerce, and merchants have been in the bottom line. The golden lady's marriage has become a problem for the Jin family. This talent has a certain amount of talent, and it is this kind of talent that is valued by the Jin family. Scholars are poor. If they are high school scholars, they need money to pave the way. In this way, the two married. 3 years later, Zioki High School recruited people and married the golden lady in accordance with the original promise. The husband and wife were loving and gave birth to a son in less than a year. This is a family of Hihi-Mimi. 2 more years later, the talented talent went to Beijing to rush for the exam and never returned. 2 years later, the golden lady learned from her fellow villagers from Kyoto that she had seen her husband in Kyoto and had already become an official. The golden lady didn't believe it, packed her bags with her children, said goodbye to her parents at home, and travelled all the way to Beijing just to find her husband. Unexpectedly, the husband-in-law searched for flowers during the examination, and was valued by the home mansion and recruited as husband-in-law. After the golden lady entered Beijing, the money was looted, and when she was at the end of her life, her husband-in-law showed up and asked her to sign and leave the book. As long as she signs and leaves the book, she will be given travel expenses and let her go back. In an instant, the beloved turned into a werewolf, and the golden lady couldn't accept it, so she was naturally unwilling to sign and leave the book. The husband-in-law showed a hideous face, took the golden lady's child, ordered someone to administer poison to her, and sold it to the remote areas. After the golden lady woke up, she lost her memory and was blind. Fortunately, the road to heaven is inexhaustible. The golden lady was bought by a hunter. Since then, he has followed the hunter for life. The hunter is an orphan, with a lonely character, but a kind heart. At first, she didn't persecute her. After a few years of life, the two had feelings. They worshipped Tang and got married. The next year he gave birth to a young son, nicknamed Shitu, and the happy and dull days lasted for several years. Suddenly one day, Stone's father went hunting in the mountains and never returned. The villagers kindly went up the mountain to search for him, only to find a broken body. Her happy life with Shitu also came to an end. Grief, sadness, and despair restored the memory of Lady Jin. She sold her property and returned to Longxi, where she was born and raised, and her parents were still waiting for her to return. The house leak happened to rain overnight, and when she returned to Longxi, Lady Jin found that the original Jin family ancestral home was occupied by the tribe. She took her young son to find out, and found out that in the third year after she left, her parents had passed away, the Jin family no longer existed, and all the family properties were taken up by the tribe. It's all the man's fault. If it hadn't been for that person's heart and soul, her parents would not die, and her son would not be lost. She vowed to take revenge, for her parents, for her son, and for herself. Speaking of this, the Golden Lady has already burst into tears. Shen Yanmo took out her veil and carefully wiped her tears. You still have stones, and you are not alone. The luckiest thing in my life is probably to meet you. The Golden Lady fumbled for the veil from Shen Yanmo's hand, and said while wiping her tears, Do you know, who did that wolf-hearted thing marry? Don't I know it? Shen Yanmo thought it was wonderful, and Lady Jin wouldn't say such a thing for no reason, she must have known it. Yet, you not only know you, but you also have relatives with them. The Golden Lady smiled mockingly, this world is really small. Before entering Kyoto, let me know the news about the dog and the man and woman. Shen Yanmo thought for a while, and asked uncertainly, could it be the grandmother and grandfather of Wu Chang Haofu? The Golden Lady nodded and smiled sarcastically, you are right, that woman belongs to the Marquis of Wu Chang. I don't know what happened to my son. It is said that if you have a stepmother, you have a stepfather. After so many years, can the son get enough food and clothes? How tall is it now? Thinking of the child who already knew how to call his mother, the Golden Lady felt like a knife. Shen Yanmo lowered his eyes, remembering Jin Lady's other son, and shook her hand to comfort him. That person's surname is Wen, who is over 40 years old. Maybe he has done bad things, and God punishes him. Except for one son, the others are all daughters. If I didn't guess wrong, then the aunt should be your child. I've seen it a few times, and he was born handsome. Thinking about it carefully, the eyebrows are somewhat similar to a stone. During the 1 year in Wu Changho's mansion, Shen Yanmo also heard some gossip, as if the grandmother's aunt's son was not biological. Now that she heard what the Golden Lady said, everything can make sense. Hearing the news of her son, Lady Jin was incoherent with excitement. Have you met him? How is he? Did those people bully him? After asking and crying loudly, for so many years, every time she thinks of that child, her heart is bleeding. If she agreed and left, and took the child away from Kyoto, would everything be different? He is the only son of the Wen family, no one will treat him badly. Shen Yanmo smiled and said many things about Wen Yu. The Golden Lady nodded in relief, grabbed Shen Yanmo's wrist, and after a while let go. You are pregnant, do you know? I accidentally touched her wrist just now, it was Hwamai, now it is more certain, less than 2 months, but it is already obvious. Shen Yanmo was not surprised, I have probably guessed the postponement of menstruation. What are you going to do in the future? The Golden Lady asked. If she has no children, she can still remarry. If she has children, it will be difficult to remarry. Shen Yanmo shook his head, I don't know. You never thought, once the home mansion knew about the existence of this child, would you still be able to keep this child's mother? The Golden Lady pointed out the stakes. Thinking of what happened in the dream, Shen Yanmo was cold all over, as if being poured out by ice water. I will protect him and never let anyone hurt him. There was a little tremor and fear in his voice. The Golden Lady thought for a while, if you want to hold your child, there are 2 ways. One is to leave completely, and prevent the people of the home mansion from finding you. This is not a long-term solution, and the other way is to climb one big tree, let the people of home mansion never dare to hurt you again. After hearing this, Shen Yanmo looked at Lady Jin carefully. There was something in her words, what on earth do you want to say? The double 9th festival is coming soon. As far as I know, the queen will come to Yaoguang temple to pray and beg God to give her a child. If you can seize the opportunity, the royal family will be your umbrella. Maybe you can still get it back. Your dowry. The Golden Lady said leisurely. Shen Yanmo is not a stupid person. After thinking for a moment, he immediately understood what she meant. He raised his head and looked at Lady Jin. You want to treat Empress, this idea is not a day or two. Even Empress went to Yaoguang Temple on Double Ninth Festival. Praying knows that, it can be seen that it has been planned for a long time. The Golden Lady laughed self-deprecatingly. I heard about it on the days of begging along the street, although my eyes are blind, but my ears are more sensitive. There are some things in my heart that I dare not forget for a lifetime. Chinese people all know about this. The Emperor and the Queen have been married for many years and have not been pregnant. It is nothing new. Shen Yanmo was just curious about the Golden Lady's ability. You can heal, why don't you heal your eyes? My eyes are caused by poisoning, and I am not good at detoxification. Our family runs a medicinal material business. I learned some gynecological pharmacology from a woman sage who specializes in infertility. The Golden Lady did not explain much, she directly let Shen Yanmo find two people who have been infertile for many years. The Emperor and the Queen have been married for 7 or 8 years, but there is a princess but no prince, indicating that there is no problem with the Emperor. Their time is running out, and they must prepare quickly. Shen Yanmo knew that the matter was urgent, so she didn't dare to delay too much, so she sent Zhang Ma and Zhang Uncle to find someone. Firstly, they have lived here for many years and know it well. Secondly, they are in their own hands, and they are not afraid of their betrayal. Uncle Zhang and Madame Zhang didn't dare to delay when she got the order. Putting down his work, went to a nearby village to find someone. In less than 2 days, I found 2 couples. The 2 couples are in different situations. A couple surnamed Wang had children, but they fell out while working and never got pregnant again. The other couple surnamed Li had no children from beginning to end. The Golden Lady made people wait to quit, leaving the pair of women behind. Shen Yanmo watched from the side, and saw that the Golden Lady took a pulse carefully, asked about menstruation and the woman's obscure things, and said to the Wang family's wife, "You are in qi deficiency, so that the menstrual fluid is not adjusted, and the blood in your belly is not scattered. For pain from time to time, you can take Shusan." The maid had already prepared pens, inks, papers and inkstones. Shen Yanmo sat at the side table, carefully recording the prescription. Just listen to the Golden Lady saying, Angelica, Chuanxiang, Ginseng, red peony root, Zedouari turmeric, Suan Hujuo, Remania, Citrus aurantium, tangerine peel each 1 or 2, acaranthes, safflower each $5, fennel should be fried, amomum, 3 rhizome and Scutellaria bicalensis each have 8 points, Cyperus rotundus 1 or 2, basil 1 or 2, licorice $1, in the end, take $3, hollow wine. After taking the medicine, come back to me for a follow-up visit. Shen Yanmo looked at the prescription and said in his heart, this Golden Lady really has some skill. After speaking, Lady Jin gave her pulse to Lady Li again, and still inquired about the situation. I have a diagnosis in my mind, and my empty eyes look at Shen Yanmo and ask Shen Yanmo to write the prescription. You are blocked by the water, or under the red and white belt, you will become a household, or it will be 3 or 4 months. This qi in blood is weak and tidal. Hot cough, lack of diet, weakness of the limbs, and labor over time. When regulating menstruation and treating heat, you can take more than 10 pieces of Bahu Daanjing decoction. Angelica is 1 coin and 5 cents, velvet antler, ginseng, chuanxiang, atractalodes, dogwood, cumin, amomum, and dried tangerine peel each have 8 points, licorice 3 points, peony and remania root each 1, agarwood 4 points, green onion and decoction hot, sweat more than 5 points, jujube seed, cough with pinelia, schisandra, blue, platycodon. The 2 women got the prescription and thanked the Golden Lady. Uncle Zhang took people to the county to get medicine. Since they have to be diagnosed and treated, it is natural that good people will do it to the end. There are ginseng in the prescription, and most people can't afford it. For future plans, Shen Yanmo had no choice but to get some silver. After waiting for more than 10 days, the two women came for a follow-up consultation. The golden lady took the pulse for them. After a while, she smiled, "I'm already well, I can have the same room, and I still need to keep taking the medicine. Come back before the double 9th festival." Fortunately, the situation of the person Uncle Zhang found was not serious, otherwise the work of more than 10 days would definitely not be enough. Daughter-in-law of Li's family and Wang's daughter-in-law thanked them again and left the fresh vegetables they brought. If they really can get pregnant, they will come to thank you again. God knows how they came over these years. Unfilial piety is the biggest problem. There are no children in the farm, and there will not be even a wrestler in the future. Shen Yanmo's every move never escaped someone's eyes. Gu Sheye looked at the information in his hand and coughed twice with his fist against his lips. "I can really toss, go and check the girl named Golden Lady, who has good medical skills. Who is it?" Lynch agreed to turn around and go out. Lin Feng handed over a cup of tea and cautiously persuaded, "Master, don't be angry, take care of your body." He opened his mouth and wanted to say something, but was interrupted by Gu Shaoyi. "Stop, you go to inquire about the news, Lin Qi stays." Lin Qi and Lin Feng are twin brothers. A few words, tell the truth. One is very talkative, like a housekeeper. Obviously Lin Feng is the housekeeper. Lin Feng complained and looked at Gu Sheye with small eyes. "Master, you will have no friends like this. You are said to be gentle to everyone. That is all superficial skills. In fact, no one can enter your heart. I feel that your heart is made of stone." Gu Sheye glared at Lin Feng. "Shut up, do you want to go to Suanwu Hall to practice?" Lin Feng covered her mouth and looked at Gu Sheye aggrievedly. He suddenly remembered something, and his eyes flashed. "Master, these few days, Princess Mingxia went to the palace every day, and his subordinates can't hold it anymore. How many days will you go back?" Gu Sheye looked over and saw that Lin Feng was all hairy. He took a few steps back and smiled weirdly. He raised his hand and promised, "The subordinate can do it, it will definitely be done, and the subordinate will go back now." Since Fu Changhao was injured, the prince was still addicted by pretending to be Fu Changhao, and he was reluctant to return to the palace. This was something he had never done before. He told Lin Qi and learned that the prince and Mrs. Fu Changhao had consummated the house. This is great news. The prince's boy body for many years finally opened up. When Lin Feng left, Gu Sheye picked up the information on the table, read it several times, and then chuckled softly, "That's it." He finally knew what Shen Yanmo was going to do. She wanted to climb a big tree and completely get rid of the Wu Chang Haofu and Shen family. However, this wish may not be realized. Shen Yanmo, who was far above Zhuangzi, sneezed. The embroidery needle in her hand stabbed her finger, and with a hissing sound, a drop of blood came out, and Shen Yanmo hurriedly entered the finger. Upon seeing this, Mother Lu ran over to ask about the situation, and asked Shen Yanmo to rest. "The child is born early, just do it slowly." Since knowing that Shen Yanmo was pregnant, Liu's mother advised her to take more rest and do less work. But Shen Yanmo didn't listen, so she had to make clothes and shoes by herself. The child in the dream died right after he was born, and it has always been a pain in Shen Yanmo's heart. After the child is born, she will do it herself, give him the best, stay with him all the time, watch him grow up, get married and have children. Shen Yanmo put down the clothes in her hand and took her mother Lu to sit aside. "I'm not tired, but you, who suffered in the house?" Seeing that Shen Yanmo did not evade the Wu Chang Ho mansion, Liu's mother asked her doubts, "Isn't the young lady planning to go back? If the old lady and Lord Ho knew that you were pregnant, they would definitely not agree to leave." Shen Yanmo looked down and thought for a while, and looked up at Mama Lu. "You have been in the Ho mansion longer than me, and you still don't know the faces of those people? Gu Yun bored me and framed me. Miss Bia regarded me as a thorn in my eye. They were one of them. I was pampered by Master Ho, and a deep scheming. The news of my pregnancy can't get into the ears of Master Ho and the old lady, for fear that there will be life concerns. I have long seen that the young lady's purpose is not pure, and she deliberately pleases her son and daughter. Usually she seems to help you speak, but every time she helps, the old lady will hate you even more. This is the woman's brilliance. Lu Mom thought about the past. So, I can't go back. Since Heli left, I have no plans to go back. Shen Yanmo was determined. Mother Lu knew that Shen Yanmo had an idea, so she didn't say much. It was 2 days before the Double Ninth Festival. Lady Li and Lady Wang came to follow up as scheduled. As a result, Li's wife was diagnosed as pregnant. The Wang family was a little bit lost. Shen Yanmo said to the Wang family wife, "Don't worry, since my aunt promised to cure you, she will not break her promise. You continue to take the medicine and come back later." He said something to comfort her and ordered her to leave. When the Wang family left, Shen Yanmo said to the Li family, "Do you still remember our original agreement?" "I know what to do, thank you madam, it has given me my wish for many years." The Li family nodded. She dreamed of wanting children, and at first she was afraid to come here, but Uncle Zhang said that there is a lady with good medical skills here who can treat her infertility. Her husband knows both Uncle Zhang and his wife, both of whom are honest people. Followed with the mentality of trying, who knew that she would be pregnant after more than 10 days after taking the medicine. She was so grateful that she wanted to cry. "It's so good." Shen Yanmo winked at Mother Lu. Mother Lu knew, took out a silver coin from her purse, and put it in the hands of the wife of the Li family. "Our young lady knows about the situation in your family. You can take these coins and buy some supplements. You will need to perform on the Double Ninth Festival, which will benefit you afterwards. Not less." Lady Li thought for a while, and touched her belly subconsciously. These people wouldn't want her children, right? Shen Yanmo smiled when he saw it. "Don't worry, we won't do anything to you. My aunt's medical skills are superb, but she lacks popularity. We want to use your mouth to spread the word. The day after tomorrow is the Double Ninth Festival. I will come to Yaoguang Temple to pray for blessings. There are a lot of nobles, you just need to say a few good things for me." Lady Li's expression relaxed a lot when she heard this. "I promise you, what should I do?" Shen Yanmo and Jin Sangzi taught. After a brief rehearsal, I felt that the effect was okay, and ordered someone to send the Li family wife out. Wu Changho Mansion. The door of the study was knocked. Gu Shaiyi didn't stop holding the pen, and shouted in. Lin Qi pushed the door in, bowed first, took out the information and doubled it to Gu Shaiyi. "This golden lady is from the Jin family in Longzi, and she was married to Master Wen 20 years ago. Master Wen made a marriage contract when she was a talent. Get married." Later, Master Wen caught Tanhua and was picked up by Master Laha and recruited as his younger sister-in-law. The golden lady went to Kyoto to find her husband. She did not know what happened and was sold to the middle of Shu. Later, she was bought by a hunter. After the hunter died, Jin Niangzi took her son to Longzi. The Jin family died for many years, and all the family properties were taken by the family. The golden woman had nowhere to go, begging all the way to Kyoto, and finally fainted in a ruined temple not far from Yaoguang Temple, and was later rescued by his wife. N.S. Gu Shaiyi listened to it and flipped through the information at random. He smiled when he remembered something that licked his lips. It affected his emotions and coughed twice. Lord Wen has a defect in character. It's interesting to stop his wife and marry again. What does the prince plan to do about the golden lady? Lin Qi raised his eyes and looked at Gu Shaiyi. Speaking of it, the prince and the Wen family are also considered close friends. Will the prince tell Master Wen about the golden lady? Gu Shaiyi picked up the pen and continued to practice calligraphy, the corners of his lips raised slightly. Why does the Wen family matter to me? Lynch stood aside, looked at the writing on the table, Vigorously and powerfully, he became a group of his own, and the prince's writing became more diligent. At this time, Gu Shaiyi ordered, "Let Lin Feng go to Shen's house, and this king wants to take Shen's concubine as a concubine." Lin Qi replied, "Yes." Shen Yanmo's temperament suddenly came to mind. "Madam is afraid that she won't agree." "You don't need to worry about it." Gu Shaiyi finished the last word, put his pen away, and stared at the words on the paper with satisfaction. "Get a car, go to Shaoguang Temple, some people should be back." As soon as the voice fell, the door was knocked. Lynch had heard the knock on the door and had already concealed his traces. Then Gu Yun's voice sounded, "Daddy, Yuner is coming to see you." Pushing the door, she saw Gu Shaiyi in the study with a smile, and looked back at the shy gentleman. "I just said that Dad was in the study, Wan Auntie still doesn't believe it, so do it now." Gu Yun and Wen Wan walked to Gu Shaiyi one after another. Gu Shaiyi frowned, "Why are you here?" "I'm about to go out." "Where is Daddy?" Gu Yun asked. The gentle and affectionate eyes looked over, waiting for the words of Gu Shaiyi. Gu Shaiyi walked out and replied, "Go to Yaoguang Temple and ask the host about some things." Wen Wan was stunned for a moment, and quickly returned to her senses. She leaned into Gu Yun's ear and whispered in a low voice, "The Yaoguang Temple is very close to the Zhuangzi of the Shen clan. Isn't Ho Ye worried about the Shen clan and wants to visit one or two? It's said that the husband and wife will be good for 100 days a day, so it's okay to visit the Shen family." Gu Yun didn't think so. She trotted to the front of Gu Shaiyi, stretched out her hand to block his way, pouting her face with a sullen expression. "Daddy is going to visit the Shen family, I don't allow it, you are all gone, she has nothing to do with our home mansion, it's a matter of fact, Daddy is not allowed to visit her." Gu Shaiyi looked back at her gentle and affectionate appearance, adjusted her clothes, and said casually, "The Queen will go to Yaoguang Temple on the double 9th festival. I want to protect the safety of the Queen. Yuner, please get out of it. Daddy promised me not to see Shen's." Gu Yun insisted. Gu Shaiyi nodded, "She has nothing to do with the home mansion. I will see how she does it." She walked over Gu Yun yearning sideways. Wen Wan walked to Gu Yun and pretended to remind him inadvertently, "Ho Ye doesn't care about Shen's. What if Shen's remembered Ho Ye and went to Yaoguang Temple to pester Ho Ye?" Gu Yun thought about it for a while, and felt that it made sense in a gentle way. She must put an end to this. Her eyes rolled to Wen Wan. "Aunt Wan, you have the best idea, what should we do?" Wen Wan was a little embarrassed, and she lowered her head and looked a little embarrassed. "I don't know, so I might as well ask the old lady. She has walked more bridges than we have walked, so she must have an idea." The two hit it off and came to the old lady's yard and talked about the situation just now. The old lady was sitting on her side lying on the floppy, her right hand pushed the Buddha beads in her hand, her slightly closed eyes slowly opened, and she glanced at Wen Wan. "I see, you can go down first." Wen Wan and Gu Yun came out hand in hand. When they left, Mrs. Gu started to do it and looked at the door sneerly. "Wen Wan is really careful, and she urged Sister Yun to come to me, wanting to come in early." An old mother came up, poured a cup of tea, and handed it to Mrs. Gu. "The old lady is so fierce, how can she escape your eyes with her careful thinking?" Mrs. Gu smiled, "But this marriage should also be on the agenda. The Shen family is not at peace, and then let the Shen family come back. Where should we put the old face of the Gu family?" Shen Yanmo was reluctant to return to this wolf den. She and the Golden Lady had set up a game, so naturally they would not miss the good show in front of the Yaoguang Temple. As in previous years, the Queen went to Yaoguang Temple one day in advance. On the double 9th festival, she visited the Buddha early in the morning to pray for the country of China, secondly pray for the royal family, and thirdly ask for an heir for herself. The maternal maid had a vegetarian meal and listened to the monks talking about Zen. "Quit it." The host sent people to the gate of Yaoguang Temple. At this time, a prepared scene was staged not far away. Lady Li came out from the incense, and saw Shen Yanmo a few people from a distance, beckoning and shouting, Ms. Shen, you go slowly. Shen Yanmo looked back at Lady Li's family, and asked softly, Lady Li's family, you also come to pray? What a coincidence! I'm not here to pray, I'm here to restore. Back then, I made a wish in front of the Buddha. If one day I can get 1.5 daughters, I must go to the Buddha to restore it and add some sesame oil money to the temple. Said the Li family lady. Raise your hand to touch the elephant's abdomen. Shen Yanmo was pleasantly surprised, do you have this? Yes, I am pregnant. I have been married to my family for 7 or 8 years, and finally got what I wanted. Thank you Mrs. Shen. If it weren't for Mrs. Shen's superb medical skills, I would never have children in my life. The gratitude on Lady Li's face was very sincere. Shen Yanmo said something instructed, and took the Li family lady's hand gradually away. The speaker didn't intend to listen to some. This scene happened to be heard by the confidant of the queen. She walked up to the queen and murmured a few words in her ear. The queen gave a surprise, what you said is true. The old slaves really listened to them, it was them. Mother Qi pointed at Shen Yanmo and Lady Li's away. The queen's Fengjia was going to leave, but when he heard this, he changed his mind and looked at the side indifferently. My palace thinks the vegetarian restaurant at Yaoguang Temple is good. I would like to taste it for a few more days. I wonder if there is such an honor. The host didn't dare to refuse, and offered a few compliments, and invited the group into the monastery, arranged the monastery for a good hospitality. The queen entered the monastery and did not wait to sit down, so she arranged for Mother Qi to investigate. Sister Qi agreed with her mouth, and she took 2 guards out of the Yaoguang temple, and met Gu Shaiyi at the gate of the temple. Gu Shaiyi got out of the carriage and carried it around, and saw Mother Qi approaching, stopped her footsteps and let her pass. Grandma Qi only regarded it as the young master of a big family, and she didn't care and left by mistake. Gu Shaiyi don't have a deep look at Mother Qi, and walked towards Yaoguang temple, stopping all the way to the last Buddhist temple. Entering the monastery and opening the surrounding area, Yesheofa's face was exposed. Gu Shaiyi was punching, and when he saw Yesheofa coming, he stopped his actions. Why are you here? The home mansion is not busy. Yesheofa came to the stone table in a few steps, picked up the teapot to make a cup of tea for himself, and snorted, Hey, do you really treat yourself as an outsider? I am an injured person. Gu Shaiyi explained. I think your injury is almost healed, so it's time to go back. It's better to choose another day than hit the sun. Let's go back together today. Your mother is going to marry you. Wouldn't you let me replace you if you don't go back? Yesheofa put down his teacup and hooked up. His lips sneered, I don't have enough green hats on my head, do you want to have another one? Gu Shaiyi raised his hand and punched Yesheofa. Yesheofa didn't take precautions, but he was beaten upright and coughed a few times. Lin Qi hurriedly stepped forward and patted him on the back, Master, be careful. After saying this, he complained about Gu Shaiyi, Master Ho, my prince will help you. If you are not grateful, forget it. Why hit him? He is weak. If it is broken, can you afford it? Gu Shaiyi didn't squint, and looked at Yesheofa with contempt in his eyes. He is weak, but his martial arts is also high. I don't know how to hide when I hit him. Who can I blame? Yesheofa waved his hand and told Lin Qi to withdraw. Brotherhood is really not as good as a woman. Gu Shaiyi didn't love Shen, so he was able to let go. Now he changed to a watch girl, he refused. Gu Shaiyi's eyes dodged, I'm thinking about you. If Princess Mingxia knows that you have been lost twice, you won't be able to lift your palace. Yesheofa picked up the teacup and took a sip of tea. Princess Mingxia has nothing to do with me. Please be careful. Why did I hear that Princess Mingxia lives in King's mansion, and you didn't dare to go back, so you promised to help me? Gu Shaiyi got up and walked to Yesheofa's side, patted him on the shoulder, and said with a smile, "All said it's hardest to accept the grace of beauty. How do I think your heart is a stone? The capital of Kyoto, Wangjian, is polite and gentle. In my opinion, there is a cold heart under your gentle appearance. If you are ruthless, you must divide people." Ye Xiaofa gave an ambiguous answer. Princess Mingxia is the emperor's cousin. His father, Prince Yang, holds a heavy soldier in his hand, and his elder brother is on duty in the bureaucracy. Prince Yang's family has been jealous of the emperor. King's mansion is the only king with a different surname in China. Although King traveled far, he was still snobbish. The emperor did not allow him to marry the daughter of a powerful official, let alone marry the lord of Mingxia. Besides, he grew up with Princess Mingxia, looking like childhood sweethearts. But Ye Xiaofu only regarded her as a younger sister, and there was no love between men and women. You really don't like Princess Mingxia, but she has a deep love for you. Gu Shaiyi stared at Ye Xiaofu closely, not letting go of any expression on his face. Don't talk about it, the queen is staying in Yaoguang Temple, do you know about this? Ye Xiaofu gave Gu Shaiyi a cup of tea. Ye Xiaofu shook his head, the queen has never stayed at Yaoguang Temple, how can I live here today? It seems that your heirs caused the trouble. Ye Xiaofu gave such a sentence. What kind of moth came out again? Gu Shaiyi thought for a while, and then said, want to climb the queen and return to the home mansion? It is really wishful thinking. Is the queen clinging to her as she wants to? Don't end up, you may eat a fishy. Who knows? I just met Shen at the gate of the temple, talking and laughing with a peasant woman. The peasant woman was infertile for many years and suddenly became pregnant, and she did not know where she got the earthwork. You know the queen's situation, too. I guess I want a prescription. These are all women's affairs, and I don't want to inquire more. Ye Xiaofu lowered his eyes to hide the smile in his eyes. Lynch glanced at Ye Xiaofu secretly, and stood not far away, saying nothing. I don't want to ask more, you still said so in detail, are you afraid of being doubted? Gu Shaiyi thought for a while, and felt that Ye Xiaofu made sense and was unwilling to talk about royal matters, so he changed the subject, today you can go back to the palace. Are you healthy? Ye Xiaofu looked up and down Gu Shaiyi. It looks like it's almost better. I don't need you anymore. Gu Shaiyi said. Cross the river and demolish the bridge. Ye Xiaofu sneered. He turned his mind and thought of Shen Yanmo. He didn't know what she was doing. He dared to calculate the queen and how much benefit could he get. Can the queen really become her shelter? Really look forward to follow-up development. The Queen Empress's people are very efficient. In less than a day, they can find out the ins and outs of the matter. Sitting on the chair, the Emperor's back end smiled while thinking of mother keywords. It's a coincidence that the palace is here, and that peasant woman also appeared at the gate of Yaoguang Temple. It was not accidental, or someone deliberately arranged. It is self-evident who this can be arranged. Mother Qi looked down for a moment, with a suspicious look on her face. The lady thinks this is the game between the Shen family and the Golden Lady, and the purpose is to get the lady into the game. I heard that the Shen family is timid, do you want to come? Dare to do such a thing? Don't dare? Once a person is driven to a desperate situation, what else can't you dare? The queen smiled and got up and walked out. Madame Qi followed behind her and asked in a low voice, where is the mother going? We will meet the Golden Lady and the Shen family. The queen stopped and looked back at Grandma Qi. If you want this palace into the game, you have to have real skills. Shen Yanmo returned to Zhuangzi, and after entering the door, went to the residence of the Golden Lady, and talked about what happened outside the Yaoguang Temple. Finally asked, Auntie is sure to cure the queen's wife's disease? No. The Golden Lady replied very simply. Shen Yanmo's heart was stunned, and she looked at the Golden Lady with a bit of suspicion. If the queen's disease cannot be cured, you still dare to design a queen empress, Do you feel that your life will be long? Without waiting for Shen Yanmo to complain, she heard the golden lady say, I have to try everything before I know it. I believe in my medical skills. At this point, Shen Yanmo can only give it a try. The queen has been infertile for many years. Even if the queen's disease cannot be cured, she believes that the queen will not kill them. If she doesn't try, she will give up lightly, and neither will Shen Yanmo. Willingly. Shen Yanmo knew that the empress was coming, but he didn't know that the empress came so suddenly. Before the queen of the night brought people, she was directly led to the living room by Zhang's mother. As the imperial court wife, Shen Yanmo had attended a palace banquet, met the queen once from a distance, and it was the first time to see the queen up close. Shen Yanmo knelt on her knees, and respectfully asks her greetings. The queen sat on the main seat and looked at her with a smile, holding a teacup in her hand and taking a few sips to her lips. She admired the tea and raised her eyes to Shen Yanmo. I heard that both parents of Shen's daughter and daughter are dead. Relying on each other with my brother, begging for life under the hands of my uncle and aunt, is timid and cowardly, only now I see you that the rumors are not credible. Upon hearing this, Shen Yanmo knew that the queen had found out the matter, and frankly admitted that she was wrong. The lady of the country is convicted, please punish the empress. Empress put down the teacup in her hand, pursed her lips and chuckled, tell me, what's your sin? She didn't say anything that made Shen Yanmo up. Shen Yanmo straightened up, and looked at the queen calmly with both eyes, people shouldn't count as empresses. You are calm. The queen laughed, get up, although you have a purpose, you also know what you like. The palace also sent someone to inquire about the two peasant women, who have not been pregnant for many years, and now they are pregnant, so do you. Somewhat capable. My palace does not come to circle with you here, as long as you can make my palace do what I want, my palace considers agreeing to your request. Do you know the requirements of the citizens? Shen Yanmo stood aside, looking at the queen with clear eyes. Don't you just want to return to the home mansion? The queen sneered. It is the honor of the Shen family to climb the home mansion as Shen Yanmo. With her knowledge of the Shen family, Shen Yanmo will never let go of such an opportunity. Niang was wrong. Shen Yanmo said, Menu didn't want to return to the home mansion. Since the Niang has checked the citizen's daughter, she should know that her temperament is in conflict with the Haofu's mansion. If that's the case, the citizen's daughter will not go back. The emperor carefully looked at Shen Yanmo, frowning his eyebrows, don't want to return to the home mansion. It is said that a good horse does not eat the grass. Since Heli came out, why did he jump into the fire pit again? The girl only wants to get his parents' things back. Shen Yanmo thumped and knelt on the ground again, for the girl, home mansion it's a tiger's lair, and Shen's family is a wolf's den. People's daughters definitely won't go back, but the people's daughters can't take things from their parents. If the mother-in-law is willing to help the people's daughters and get things, the people's daughters will give half of them to the mother-in-law. After hearing Shen Yanmo's words, the queen laughed even louder. It was the first time she heard that the home mansion was a tiger's lair. How many noble ladies in Kyoto wanted to marry into the home mansion and could not get in with all the means, Shen's daughter but abandoned it like a shoe. Fine, as long as you can make this palace dowry, this palace promises you, as for your things, keep it as a dowry. The queen agreed to Shen Yanmo's request. Shen Yanmo was overjoyed upon hearing this, and thanked him again. In return, Shen Yanmo got up and immediately asked the golden lady to come in. After the queen mother came to check her pulse for the queen, she asked some questions about menstruation. Her eyebrows were a bit solemn. Did the mother fall into the water when she was a child? The queen shook her head and said that she had never fallen into the water. On the side, Madame Chi reminded her aloud, I am afraid I forgot, Madame was 5 years old that winter, and she accidentally fell into the water while playing on the lake. Madame was young, so she might not remember it. That's it. The golden lady retracted her hand and said leisurely, Madam is a physique that is not easy to get pregnant, and she fell into the water and became infertile for many years. In winter, the lady will suffer from cold hands and feet. No matter how warm it is, it's not hot. Yes, yes, what the lady said. Is there a way to cure it? Mother Chi looked anxious. The Empress was taken care of by her since she was a child, and she naturally knew what the Queen was thinking. The Golden Lady looked at Mother Chi with hollow eyes and nodded, although it is difficult to treat, it is not hopeless. If it is a year and a half of good health conditioning, there is great hope. The old man will go back and study first, so that the wife can prescribe medicine. Quit it. When the Queen heard there was hope, she also showed expectation. After many years of marriage, she only wanted a child of her own. Shen Yanmo's nervous mood relaxed, as long as there is hope. After the diagnosis and treatment, the Queen took Shen Yanmo to talk for a while, saying that Shen Yanmo is her lucky star, and if she wins a boy and a half in the future, she will be rewarded. Shen Yanmo said immediately, "The girl promised to help me get back the things from my parents." The girl is grateful and dare not ask for any more rewards. How do you compare those things with the emperor's heir? It's okay, it's not early, this palace should go back. You should also pack up, and follow this palace into the palace in 2 days. With you following this palace can rest assured quite a lot. The Queen stood up and put her hand on the back of Mother Qi hand, talking and walking away. Niang Niang. Shen Yan suddenly panicked when she heard that she was about to enter the palace, and shouted back. She had a child in her belly. Going back to Kyoto might reveal the news of her pregnancy. If the people in the Marquis of Wuchang knew about her, wouldn't it be necessary to seize her child? She would never allow it. The Queen looked back at Shen Yanmo. Why, you don't want to? The tone was a bit cold, causing Shen Yanmo to tremble all over, shaking his head and explaining, "It's not unwilling, but there is a last resort." The Queen smiled happily, "My palace knows what you are afraid of, don't worry, since you are allowed to enter the palace, this palace will protect your life. Put your mind on what you should put, and you don't need to pay attention to the rest." She only wants a child, no one can stop it, otherwise, she doesn't mind doing it herself. After the Empress left, the stone helped the Golden Lady come in. Shen Yanmo was stunned in place, calling out a few softly, but he did not agree. Stone pushed her, "Sister Mo, what's wrong with you? The nobleman has already left." Shen Yanmo regained consciousness, said nothing, and said to Lady Shen, "Auntie, we have already taken action, I am afraid there is no turning back. Madam wants us to go to Kyoto. A year or a half is a long time." The Golden Lady smiled, "Who said it's been a year and a half? I went back and thought about it, and thought of a recipe. Although the sword goes slant, the effect is excellent. If the Queen wants to, you can try that recipe. Match me 3 months can make the Queen pregnant." The Queen has been waiting for so many years, and she must be reluctant to wait any longer. Even if the prescription is in pain, the Queen's Empress will agree. If her eyes can see, the method of passing the acupuncture points with golden needles will have a better effect. 3 months. Shen Yanmo said to herself, it happened to be winter, her belly is not big, and it should not be obvious to wear thick clothes. I also hope that I can get back my parents' things in 3 months. Shen Yanmo wanted to get back what his parents left behind, but the people in Shen's mansion didn't know that the people from Daijing Wang's mansion wanted to accept Shen Yanmo as a concubine. The Shen family thought that if the Vuchanghao tree was lost, a bigger pie would fall from the sky. Second Aunt Shen agreed to the king's palace request without even thinking about it. After the people in the king's mansion left, Mrs. Shen was very dissatisfied. First, she felt that the concubines of the Shen family were concubines with others, and she could not make a living. Secondly, she felt that the right to speak was robbed by the daughter-in-law, so she should have the final say. It's time for the daughter-in-law to call the shots. Second Aunt Shen was used to playing tricks, and she coaxed Mrs. Shen with a few words, and the two discussed going to Zhuangzi tomorrow morning and asked Shen Yanmo to agree to it. Second Uncle Shen came back from the Yamen and heard that the king's mansion wanted to accept Shen Yanmo as a concubine, and he hesitated. Will that girl Shen Yanmo agree?